right, suggestions. Yes.
When you're talking about the spirit in Michigan, and you know, this is the land of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, and they would come to Upper Michigan and vacation, and then we had this wonderful car industry.
Yes.
And our economy, to a large extent, is based on, in Michigan, was based on the car industry.
Right.
So I'd like to know today, my friends in the auto industry, dealerships in the UP, say this is the best year they've had in 20 years.
Great.
It's wonderful. Has, like GM, I think, has paid back a lot of the money that came in stimulus. And I think good things are ahead for Michigan with the way that industry is rebounding.
Yes. You know, we went through, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that we've been through a very tough ride on this. In fact, I will never forget December 2008 when we tried to get some short-term bridge loans when Wall Street collapsed and GM and Chrysler weren't able to get the capital they needed. We tried to get some bridge loans and it failed in the Senate. I'll never forget that. It was the worst moment of my professional life. I turned my hair red. I was so angry about that people couldn't see how important it was to have manufacturing, which is based on the auto industry. But the good news is, new administration, new Congress, and we got some temporary help, but then they said, you know what, we have to work with the industry and support them to restructure. And it was very hard, but with the backing and the financing that couldn't be done in the private sector at the time, it wasn't available. So the financing came through the federal government for them to go through bankruptcy, and they did it in record time. Each company did it in 30 days, which was unheard of. But there's a lot of smart people that came together to figure out how to get them in and out, you know, how to protect the pensions of the folks that were working there, and how to try to, you know, least amount of damage possible. And so they've gotten out, and the luck of this, I've been working in cash flow clunkers. We've come up with this idea, and we've been working on how to get people in showrooms and, you know, encourage people to buy more energy efficient automobiles, but also get the industry going. Well, as it turned out, the companies were just coming out of bankruptcy when we passed cash flow clunkers and it took effect. And the numbers show that it started it, because people went back to showrooms and started looking around and buying vehicles. And then we added second shifts on plants, because guess what? When people buy automobiles, then you got to make more, right? And so 60,000 jobs were created as a result of that. So, so all that to say, that kind of jump-started them. And then they started going, and they're making great product. And so now they've paid back, GM has paid back all of their loan. Now what they have, so they paid back all the loan, except we collectively own a piece of GM now, and they have to go out on the market and sell shares and so on. So that piece isn't done. But the direct loans have all been paid back from GM, and Chrysler has I believe, has started theirs back. And so you know, and we're going to end up overall. But when you look at all of these things that were done, we're told that as taxpayers, we're actually going to end up making money on this when it's all said and done. Now, you know, believe me, we would not want to go through this again. This is not the way you want to do it, but it's going to end up being actually an investment that's actually going to make money. So, and most important thing is it's save jobs. Yeah, the numbers show that. You know, I don't know if this is exactly right, but the national folks say that 1 out of 10 jobs in the country in some way are connected to the automobile industry. I was talking to a fellow from South Carolina who makes cloth, who makes textiles down in South Carolina, and he said to me, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys saved the auto industry." And I said, "Well, you're in South Carolina. What? How do you care about that?" He said, "I make the materials for seats down in South Carolina." He said, if the companies had gone under, I would have been bankrupt. And so the reach, you know, there are 130,000 dealers across the country. When we did Cash for Clunkers, colleagues of mine who thought they had no interest in the auto industry, all of a sudden were coming up to me interested in the auto industry, because they realized, they have auto dealers that sell these cars in trucks. You know, gee, it's not just Michigan. you know, the folks down south have car dealers, you know, so all of a sudden people and it's helped us, because now people are actually wanting to pay attention and help.
Thank you.
Yes?
Senator, thank you for coming. I'm a member here at the college. You see the commercials across the UP for the first district election and others, and of course, the other side says failed stimulus, kind of opposite of what you're saying. I went out in '09 and bought a new Dodge Ram. It's in a union facility in Michigan. I belong to a union. Why wouldn't I? Is there a disconnect between Americans that we can buy everything cheap and then still expect jobs? A lot of my faculty drive foreign vehicles. And I'm like, why don't you buy a car in Michigan? Our sales tax dollars help support my job here.
Yeah.
Is there a disconnect between Americans who are kind of self-absorbed and it's just about my benefit and heck with my neighbor?
Well, I think that's beginning, I mean, I think that's changing. I mean, because people are seeing that, that we are connected, by the way, and that, you know, we spent the last 10 years as a country focusing on cheap price, and we lost a lot of jobs. We lost 6 million jobs because people weren't paying attention to where things were made. And, you know, we better pay attention, because the jobs come from where things are made. You know, again, making things, growing things, adding value to it. That's how you create an economy. And yes, we need services, yes, we need innovation and so on, but fundamentally, somebody has to make something. And there's a new awakening of that. I mean, that is really beginning. And frankly, this administration has been very, very good on that, understanding that. Because I've been through a lot of times where it's not been the case. So it's, but you know, but it's very hard. I think it's very tough when, you know, I can say I'm seeing things get better, but they're not getting better yet for everybody. You know, that's the problem, is that people are feeling insecure and fearful, which I get, and angry, which I get. But we have to look, okay, what's going to move us forward? What's working and what isn't working? What has not worked in the past? Or how come we lost 6 million jobs? You know, what was that about? Well, you know, personally, I think it was about not enforcing our trade laws, not caring about where things were made, not investing in innovation and education like we should have, not partnering with business. Our businesses are competing with countries. Our companies are competing with countries around the world. They pay for everything. If you go to China, they'll go, come on over, we'll build you the plant, we'll do that. Of course, they have a form of government I wouldn't want to have. I wouldn't want to live there, in that form of government. But that's what our companies are competing with. China just decided that, you know, said that, yeah, they wanted, if our companies were going to sell electric vehicles in China, they had to give them all their patents, which means you sell the first car and then they make the rest of them, you know. And so, I mean, so these trade rules matter in terms of making sure that we're, you know, that we're competing fairly. And we need to be, you know, partnering and investing in the right things, in the right thing. I'm not saying every single penny in the Recovery Act was the right thing. But I would tell you overall, Michigan benefited tremendously from that. You know, there are things, if I was writing it, I would have done differently. But when you look at the construction money, the water sewer money, the electric vehicle money, the manufacturing money, the broadband, the education funding, the, you know, there was money in there for airports and, I mean, you know, airports and rail and in Michigan, you know, we are in a better position a year and a half later than we would have been without those investments. And we now have a wide array of businesses that have been spawned around the state because of the manufacturing tax credit on clean energy and the retooling loans to help retool old plants. The brownfields that GM just announced an effort, a big fund that they've set up that they're paying for, an environmental fund to clean up sites where plants have closed and to help local cities and townships, counties, redevelop those. And Michigan's going to get about $159 million for that. We have more plants than anywhere else. And again, that was in partnership with what was happening with the Recovery Act. So, but when you're at home and you don't have a job, or you lost your job and the next one you got paid half as much, and you're underwater in your house, and, you know, you can't, you know, kids can't go back to school like we thought they were gonna be able this fall. It's pretty tough, you know, it's pretty tough to say to somebody, things are getting better, if in their personal life it's not getting better. So we just have to keep pushing until everybody feels it.